Blue Note is back with probably their most highly anticipated release year after year. This is the 2025 Bourbon and Rye Honey Cask. I am so excited. Let's go! How are y'all doing today? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbinsane. Blue Note is a company located in Memphis, Tennessee, and honestly, I've been a fan of this craft whiskey company now for many years. Ever since I first got a chance to try their Blue Note Juke Joint, which is kind of their entry-level bourbon, I've been really impressed with what they're doing over there. You can tell a lot by a craft whiskey company by the blending they're doing. You know, the barrels they're choosing, the grains they're choosing, how long they choose to age, and then the ratio they use of which barrels they're pulling. And I think Blue Note's got it figured out, honestly. They have multiple different expressions. They got the bourbon, the rye, and one of my favorites of their entry line is actually the Crossroads, which is a French oak finished bourbon. And speaking of finished bourbons, we're going to be getting into two today. One bourbon, one rye, and this is one of the most sought after ones I've seen year after year, the Honey Cask. I'm excited for this, really excited. I got a chance to try these. You can see the bottle's been drank down a little bit already, and spoiler alert, it's some good stuff. So let's go into the bourbon first here. This is a 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley mash bill. And actually, they use distilled spirits from Lofted Spirits, who's actually the company behind Green River Distillery. So if you look at Green River's mash bill, it's actually the same as the Blue Note mash bill. I don't know about you guys, but I think Green River is the next company that's coming up. They have a lot of great expressions, and their flavor profile definitely works for me. So that tells you everything you need to know about Blue Note, and honestly, all these bottles are very affordable, at least of their base expression. So for the bourbon first, what they do is this is aged a minimum of 3 years. Now I know 3 years is intimidating, scary, but then at that point, they take it out of the barrels, they put it in actually a barrel that was used to age honey. So they make barrel-aged honey. Time frame for us, how long it was left in those barrels, they don't say. Most likely it's going to be a blend at different times and things like that just to get the flavor profile they want. But they're doing some really cool experimenting, and that tells you, like I said, that tells you a lot about a company, especially a craft company. So let's look at color here on the bourbon. This has got a beautiful color. I mean, that honey really comes through gorgeous. It adds a very nice viscosity, a thickness to this whiskey, which I think is awesome. And the legs are great. I mean, big legs on there. And I think the color comes through a little bit darker too with it. So that's good. Let's go right into the nose here. Now, let's remember, this is a 3-year whiskey. But I'll tell you what, this smells much older than 3 years. It's probably the finishing. I forgot to mention proof on this. I think it's around 114. Yeah, 113.86 proof. And both of these are very high proof compared to what they could have done. Could have watered them down, but I love that they're leaving these near cask strength. This nose, man, I love it. I recently reviewed the Woodinville 9-year. To me, that was the best nose I've had on a craft whiskey probably all year. I don't think this is to the level of that, but you can tell that honey that's used here, that honey influence, absolutely gives you an extra level of creaminess. Very floral. And that Blue Note, or I guess Green River mash bill, always gives me a little bit of spearmint. And that does come through as well in the bourbon. But I'm getting almost no graininess, which is great because a 3-year whiskey, I mean, you're expected to get a lot of graininess, especially when you get to the barrel proof stuff. You know, a lot more of that alcohol burn comes up. This is just all creaminess. A little bit of oak in there. Very floral. Very honey. But I love the nose on it. I really do. It's really good stuff. So let's give it a taste here. Thank God they put this at 114 proof, honestly. I probably wouldn't be near as big of a fan of this if it was lower proof. This has got just a great mouthfeel, great finish, great mouth coating, I mean, all around the palate. That was just my first sip of the day, too. Always is great when you have that first sip of the day, but there is just a whole nother layer of sweetness in this. So much sweetness. Man, not a lot of fruitiness, honestly, comes through on this, on the bourbon for me. This is just nothing but whipped vanilla, whipped caramel. That honey, absolutely. I mean, the floral honey, like wildflower. I mean, wildflowers, like you're in a field of wildflowers. And the honey just, I don't know, I think it's adding more to that viscosity on the mouthfeel. I can see why this is honestly one of the most sought after bourbons out there as far as cask finishing and things like that. Back in the day, I got to try the Belle Meade Honey Cask, and I remember that thing was going for like massive, massive money on the secondary market. I got to try a sample of that. I think that Belle Meade was probably a little bit older, but it's been years now since I tried it, so it's hard to say a comparison. I wish I had it to try it next to this. But man, this is good stuff. Let me do one more sip on the bourbon. I just love it. It's an incredible, incredible mouthfeel. The part that shines through the most on this is the mouthfeel and finish. If you're a fan of those sweet, desserty bourbons, this is going to be for you all day. The proof drink's much lower than 114, I think, because of all that viscosity. I mean, I really think it's because of all that viscosity, those honey sweetness that comes through. You can definitely tell, I think, that this is a finished bourbon just because of that extra layer of sweetness. But I think the honey makes it drink older than it is also. I think it rounds off those rough edges, takes away some of that graininess or that farminess you might get in young whiskey, young bourbon specifically. And it really does add a whole new layer of complexity and deliciousness to this bourbon. All right, let's move on to the rye whiskey here. This is a 95.5, 95 rye, 5% malted barley. And again, this is near barrel proof, so 116.49 proof, and that's great. Again, 3-year minimum. We know in general, rye tends to age faster than bourbon. But once again, contract distilled or whatnot through lofted spirits. So color on this, it's a little bit lighter than the bourbon is. Let me see if I can grab this next to it here. In my light, at least it looks a little bit lighter, even though it's a little bit higher proof, but it is rye versus bourbon as well. I don't think the viscosity is quite to the level of the bourbon on here. But I'll tell you what, it's got a very nice honey-looking color. And for those of you that haven't had rye finished products, whether it be honey or finished in whatever, toasted barrel finish, I think what you can do with rye as far as finishing and rye's potential is just amazing. So let's go into the nose here. Wow. So I've had one good-sized glass out of this already, and this nose is completely different now than the first time I had it. I just took my son on a field trip or I was with him on a field trip to an apple orchard. That we're getting to that time of year now. And we walked into this refrigerator, this massive refrigerator that they had just crates and crates of apples stored in. And I got hit with that smell. Of like an apple cider, the steps right before you make apple cider. That is massively what I'm getting on this. Just nothing but crisp apple on it. A little bit of tartness. A little bit of spearmint, but I really think that honey is putting that mint on the back burner. Slight menthol. This has reminded me of like a honey cough drop almost. It's hard to say that because some of those cough drops you do have, the honey ones are usually a little smoother. But some of those cough drops are very menthol forward. This is very subtle menthol. It's mostly just like a honey lozenge. But that apple, man, it's like bringing me back to that orchard again. Maybe it's recency bias, but let's go into the palate. Wow. Initial pour, initial impression of both of these, I was favoring the bourbon all day. That rye is really good too. I think I'm just a fan of rye whiskey more than I ever used to be in the past, and this finished rye is good. I mean, once again, drinks well above 3 years. You know what this is? This is a hot toddy. So you ever get sick, your throat's hurting, your throat's sore. I talked about the lozenges, but you make yourself a little tea, a little warm water. You add some bourbon, some honey, a little bit of lemon juice. I mean, with the rye, I think that gives you a little bit of that lemon or orange citrus that does come through. That's it, man. That's a hot toddy. And the cinnamon. I mean, the cinnamon as well. It's literally a hot toddy is what it is. But once again, the amount of creaminess, that honey just, That honey just makes it drink older. It drinks older, and I think it does add a whole nother layer of viscosity to the palate, too. I feel like I'm kind of fanboying over these whiskeys right now, which is crazy for a 3-year-old, but these are really, really good. I mean, I completely understand why these are both very sought after, very limited. I wouldn't be surprised if these eventually hit the secondary market and they're starting to be above $100. Retail on both of these, $64.99. Extremely affordable. Extremely affordable. The rye, I think they put out about 13,000 bottles, if I'm remembering right. And the bourbon was only a couple thousand. I love this bourbon. I mean, this could maybe even crack my best whiskeys of the year, just on initial impression at least. And I know it's only 3 years, but I think what they're doing with it, really, really good. Really good. So you might be able to find these. You know, you might be able to at least find the rye specifically, because there's many, many more bottles of the rye. $64.99. Either one of these, it's a no-brainer. Like, no-brainer. I would absolutely get these again. I wish I had a chance to get another bottle. And we'll see. I think it's still available, actually, at BlueNote.com, at least for the rye. I'm not sure about the bourbon. That may be sold out now at this point. But check that out. And if you haven't had anything honey finished, it takes you on quite a trip. All right, well, I appreciate each and every one of you being here today. Thank you so much for watching the review. Let me know, if you were to try one of these, would you prefer the bourbon or the rye, do you think? Just based on my notes and what I told you. Like I said, I'm a fan of both now. I think the rye took over for me today, but the bourbon's been my favorite. Just trying it up to this point, I've had multiple glasses of the bourbon now. So I want to hear your thoughts, though. Have you had any other finished or honey-finished bourbons and ryes? Because I'm curious about that, too. I mentioned the Belle Meade earlier, and then now the Blue Note, but any other ones you've tried that you would recommend? And I'm curious how they compare to this. If you haven't yet, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out my written review of this, I did put it out on my website, bourbinsane.com, and I'm still putting out multiple times a week reviews, content, articles about the industry, that kind of stuff. If you're interested in that, go over there and give it a read. It would mean a lot to me. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Stay insane.